Welcome to Natural Health Pioneers. We appreciate you seeing us again today, and we have a special show for you coming up shortly. There are a lot of retailers in natural foods, but few started way back in the 60s and 70s. And we plan to have a Howard Pollack with us tonight and to discuss that live. And first, we're going to show the interview that we did with Howard a couple of years ago before the pandemic. And then we'll have some live discussions updating what's been going on with him and other details about his adventure as a natural foods retailer, distributor, and really manufacturer.
Good morning, Bonnie McDonald Dixon here at Rainbow Acres in Los Angeles, California, originally started by the founder Howard Pollack. We're here to interview today Howard because we want to find out why he started Rainbow Acres and all the amazing things he's created here. His store has not only bulk foods, but he has an amazing deli. I ate there this morning. I know it's amazing. He's got vitamins, herbs, cosmetics. They have all sorts of treats. They have a produce department, gifts. One thing that's really interesting about Howard is he has created a place for people to come and feel comfortable to come and grab their natural food needs here. So let's go on in and meet with Howard.
The start was in 1963. When I first got introduced to natural foods, and that came about through some friends who were vegetarian and raw fooders, and I ended up changing my whole lifestyle. And that brought about a divorce because my wife at the time did not believe in those principles at all. So we thought it would be best for the two kids we had if we went our separate ways. And that worked out. I took care of them. She raised the kids. I provided the support. And I went on to build a distribution business called Nature's Best. I started a distribution company by accident. I was making a product in my kitchen at home, a raw food candy, that I was selling to just friends and family and people at the bowling alley where I was bowling at the time. And I ended up going to a few health food stores, and one thing led to another. Before I knew it, I'm a distributor. And Nature's Best outgrew me in 1976. I'm sorry, in 1972, I sold it to a conglomerate of stores, sold 80%, kept 20%, but that didn't last very long because it was hard working for somebody after being my own guy for several years. So I ended up selling the rest of it, and I started another company called Campus Natural Foods. Because of a non-competition agreement, I ended up going to college campuses and setting up natural food sections in their bookstores. And that I called Campus Natural Foods. And I did that until 1977 when I sold it to one of my major suppliers who wanted a business for his adult children. And I just fooled around and did a little investing and a little buying and selling between that time. And it was actually 1980 when we started the store. The word has been out that it was 81, but I found some old paperwork that shows it was actually 1980. So 40 years ago, we started with the little 2,000 square foot section in this shopping center that we've now taken over the 3 buildings on the block. The only other business still available here is Van's Shoe Store, and they've been here longer than me. So that's the genesis of the growth of this store. And I attribute the growth to an amazing staff. I've had people working for many, many years. Doug has been my general manager for, I think, 38 or 39 of those years. We have Laura, who has been here over 30. My daughter Dana's been here doing the bookkeeping for seems like 1,000 years, but I'm sure it's only been about 35. And I have another daughter, Erin, who is a troubleshooter, is real good with taking care of problems. And then my son, Greg, is the liaison between my warehouse operation and here, packaging all the Rainbow Acres products, of which we have about 400 now. And he stocks the shelves, he gets it packaged, he orders the product, and it's a real integrated situation now. All right, so I do have a 4,000 square foot commercial kitchen where we manufacture a lot of raw dehydrated products that we sell to other stores across the country. And we do private label packaging for other stores. Probably one of my oldest customers is Cheryl Hughes over at the whole Wheatery, and we have a great working relationship. We've traveled to trade shows all over the country, done a lot of things as a quasi partnership. We even have a bag that we combined our logos and did a bag that we buy overseas and sell, a reusable bag. Well, a lot of people know that I have a reputation for not being afraid to buy big quantities of things. And this store has sold some pretty amazing things in the past. We're probably the only health food store that sold refrigerators, that has sold luggage. We've sold giant footballs that were actually, our football helmets that were logoed and that were actually trash cans. And we also did a lot of office furniture. I once bought a truckload of filing cabinets and chairs and desks and things, and I have somebody in my warehouse that loves to put that stuff together, so it was all things that he assembled, and then we'd bring them in a little bit at a time, put them in a small space, and sell them a piece or two at a time. And that has always been a fun kind of the business. So I've always had a good time finding things and selling things. And then people come to me with the deals, and I'm not afraid to buy a few pallets of something, like some chips that are still have lots of shelf life to me, which would be 2 to 3 months, but to be in distribution, they need 9 to 12 months. So it's worked well for me. The next thing is have lots of capital, because you've got to have a full store to impress your customers when you come in. When they come in and find 2 or 3 items on a shelf, then that's not going to impress them. That's not going to give them confidence that you're doing a good business, turning your merchandise over, and always having fresh supply for them. So I would say if you're going to go into business and you think it's going to cost you $50,000, then wake up. It's going to cost you $100,000 or $150,000, even in a small store, to get set up. All the regulations now, all the things that the health department and the state officials make you do, especially here in the state of California, which is about as unfriendly to business as you can get, and that's why businesses are leaving this state. We're stuck. We're going to be here until the cows come home, because we have an established situation and we've managed to get around and learn to deal with all those regulations. But it's hard. It's more and more difficult with the health situation. The low unemployment has made it more and more difficult to find good employees. We've been very fortunate in that we do have a lot of good employees, and they work together as a team, and we're pretty happy with it.
Well, that was great, Howard. We really appreciate you doing that, but we'd like a little more detail after hearing that story. So, You can unmute yourself there, and very good. And we'll talk about, maybe I can ask you a question rather. In your early days in the 60s and the 70s, going from a consumer enthusiast to a having your own business is quite a step. So, do you remember any particular influencers in health that affected you, or books or things like that that inspired you to plunge into that category?
Well, I had several people who were, I would say, quasi mentors. Had a good friend, Mardell Williams, who had been in several different businesses. He had a gas station, he had a speed shop, building race cars.
Ah,
He did several things in that range. He was a talented shingler and had a roofing company at one time. So he was pretty well rounded, and he gave me a lot of good tips on running a business and taking care of things and making sure that you take care of your people who are on your team. And that was probably the major influence. I did have other people that I admired, who had done things. Sandy Gooch, who started her stores, and did a terrific job with building those. She ended up with, I think, 11 stores before she sold to Whole Foods. And Sandy and I stay in touch. We email several times a week, and talk about current events and what's going on, and a lot of um, a lot of funny stuff, cartoons that come along, and you got to have laughter in your life. If you don't have a lot of laughter, then what's the sense? Um,
true.
on the opposite end, I have had a couple of sad things happen. My daughter, who I mentioned in the last, Dana, who I mentioned in the last video, she was really unluckily, she got bile duct cancer, and in
Oh,
60 days from the time of diagnosis to the time she passed, she basically had a very rough time of it.
hmm.
And my other daughter, Erin, became like the download machine and spent every day with Dana, learning about the bookkeeping, learning about the business. We did a lot of things to try to facilitate that. And now Erin is pretty much running the show at Rainbow Acres. She's doing a great job with support from our staff. And I'm so proud of her, the way she stepped up and took care of things in areas that she had never done before. And she's just smart enough to get around and take care of things. Um, the pandemic has not helped at all. Um,
Okay.
we're we're especially currently, we're always understaffed.
Ah,
We're doing pretty much the same business as we were doing in 2019, 2020, but we have to struggle with less people and less resources. It's amazing the way this store has been able to function as well as it is, the way that's happening. My wholesale operation, out of the warehouse, we talked about a 4,000 square foot commercial kitchen, but the warehouse itself is 18,000 square feet.
whoa.
I'm able to store a lot of things. I bring in glass from China and then turn those into sprouting jars using a stainless steel mesh screen. And
Oh, wow.
I sell those under the Rainbow Acres label, and I have some
private label customers in Canada as well as here in the States. Um, we also are manufacturing large quantities for some other companies because we are certified organic. There aren't a lot of certified organic co-packers, and we've been able to fill a niche there and do some interesting things and figuring out how to manufacture um, different products and doing those things at reasonable costs so that everybody is able to take a little bit of the pie and not be a hog about it. Um,
Well, getting certified as a co-packer, I mean, you didn't grow everything, obviously. So this is a manufacturer who pulls things together. How hard was that then? How long did that take?
well, it all comes through it wasn't an overnight thing. It was a combination of things over a number of years that led us in that toward that path. Having somebody come by and ask us to do something, and then we have to figure out. We normally would do a test run, see how long it takes to do something,
Hmm.
and after we do that, then we end up, um, you know, crunching the numbers and figuring out some profit, and so we make a buck and they make a buck and everybody's happy. I have a product line that I'm selling nationally through KE distributors and some smaller distributors, but it's a crisp called Mock Family Farms, and we have a breakfast crisp and a spirulina crisp, and it's like an elongated cracker, but it's made from seeds and it's dehydrated, certified
Oh,
organic, and it's still considered raw because it doesn't go over, except for a low temperature.
wow.
So that company I acquired because it was a certified organic product, and the certifier that certified their product also was our certifier for when we went from
Cool.
conventional to organic. And the lady that ran that company, she had unfortunately gotten hit by a car on the street. And when she got hit, she was in a hospital bed, then she was in a wheelchair, and she was really racked up. Her employees were running the business for her the best they could, but it's kind of hard pulling all those strings and pushing the buttons from a distance. So the certified organic or organic certifier that I had, he suggested we get together, and I went and made a deal with her where I was able to buy her current inventory, her current equipment, and I
Uh-huh.
ended up with paying her a royalty for a number of years, and she was happy. She was able to, get by, and especially now that we have um, expanded the product line and we're doing a few other things along with it.
Well,
So,
that sounds fascinating. I'd love to get my hands on some of those crackers because it sounds like it's more than just a amusement food. It's got real nutrition and raw and made out of seeds. That's great.
yeah, it's a very nice product. If you can't eat gluten, that's the main thing. It's a
Oh,
gluten-free
got it.
product
Okay. All
because
right.
there's no gluten in seeds,
Right.
and you're able to use it as a cracker substitute or bread
Awesome.
substitute.
Well, you have a real eye as an entrepreneur. I can tell that I would just imagine you backing in truckloads of something into your warehouse of various kinds. If you can buy low and sell at a fair price, that must mean bring a lot of different consumers to your store, not knowing what they're going to see. Is that part of your culture?
Yes, yeah.
I think that's fun.
I really believe in giving back. I
Mhm.
belong to the Venice Marina Rotary Club.
Uh-huh.
We're a breakfast club. It's nice because I was in a lunch club for a while and it just kind of interrupts your day. But a breakfast club, you go, you meet at
Mhm.
7:30 in the morning. By 9 o'clock, you're done. And if you don't know anything about Rotary International, it is an amazing organization with 1,200,000 members around the world. Um, you know, I think 35,000 clubs. And when you're a member of that organization, you can go to any club meeting around the world and you're invited in. You can sit and see different cultures, see different, the way I'll give you an example. Um, I went to a meeting in Paris and it was at one of the top three restaurants in Paris. And we were served a very nice dinner, lunch. And this was 25 years ago, 27 years ago.
Uh-huh.
And basically, the lunch was $33. And then that was on a trip that I won through the Natural Products Organization at one of the trade shows.
Cool.
We did a trip to Europe, and my wife and I went. We spent a week on a free trip, which cost me more than I can imagine now. Um, and we,
The free trip, right? Yeah.
we took a train from Paris to Amsterdam, and the exact opposite of that one. They met at a fire station and they had cold cuts and made sandwiches for lunch. So no
Well,
fancy wine, no fancy
yeah.
lunch.
Well,
So
you stay very active, and that's terrific. I can tell. Is there any something away from a natural foodie that you do as a hobby or keeping fit? You seem to be quite fit.
well, I'm not really into a hobby, but I got into meditation.
I see.
I follow the self realization fellowship teachings. So I actually have a guru
Okay.
and I meditate twice daily, um, read the lessons and study. And it just helps you to be a more rounded, better
Hmm.
person. It's an interesting life. I know a lot of the monastics that are belong to it. Um, I'm in the process of um, writing a bit of an autobiography, and one of the people helping me is a monk that
Hmm.
left the organization after a falling out. He was, in disagreement with leadership there, and so he left, and he's doing some really nice lectures and things around the country. So that's kind of what my hobby is. I
That'll be.
have. So I'm sorry.
That's all
Um,
right.
this is
Live is live, Howard. So we know it's real. So your the autobiography. When do you think you'll be done with that?
well. I hope to get it done the next several months.
Cool. Well,
This
let us
year
know
for
about that.
sure.
We'll leave a link about that to our followers. So make sure you notify us about that. That would be a very interesting
Yeah,
indeed.
it'll give a lot more detail about some of the deals I've been able to make over the years.
Yeah, awesome.
Um, that's one of the things that allowed us to be in the position we are now. I mean, I'm very fortunate. I joined the Army when I was 17,
Uh huh.
and so that gave me GI benefits. I was, I think, guided by a higher consciousness. I was able to um, enter the service in 1957 when it was between real fighting, shooting
Right.
wars.
Right.
Korean conflict was over and Vietnam had not started yet.
Right.
So I was out in 1960 completely free. I had no reserve duty or anything. But one of the major things is, let's see, 10 years later, I bought a house in 1970 with no money down. And I'll tell you how far we've come from there. I only had to pay closing costs
Uh-huh.
and like insurance and taxes. That was a $1,500 bill that we had a heck of a time making.
I
So
see.
I was in a new business. I had started Nature's Best, a couple of years before
Yeah.
that,
Right.
and it hadn't grown to the size that it eventually did. So that just, to me, I was very fortunate. And I say there's a divine mother that's guiding me every
I
day.
see.
And, that universal consciousness that whether you believe it's there or not, it's there. So I
Well,
am
so I have a question for you. We're
sure.
thinking since you're working on your autobiography, is there something a thing or two that you would do different now looking back in hindsight than you did?
I think I probably would have figured out how to use money in a better way.
Hmm.
I, um, I never had any formal training. I don't think it's come up. I quit school in ninth grade at 15 years old.
Hmm.
I didn't see where I was learning the things that would help me in life. I
Okay.
didn't see where certain relevant facts that they pound into you made sense. And I would ask the teachers these questions and they couldn't answer them. So
What
I,
what kind? Do you remember what kind of questions?
like, why do I have to know when Columbus came to this country?
Oh, okay.
Um, things like that.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, history, now it's kind of fun reading about it. I
Uh-huh.
was always a prolific reader. Um, Going through grammar school, I
Wow.
actually won. I grew up in San Bernardino, California,
Hmm.
and I won the library reading contest
Wow.
in my
Hmm.
age group for like 5 years in a row, reading um, pretty much a couple hundred books during the summer and writing a book report on them.
Whoa.
So I was able to do a condensed version and do that. And I have pretty good retention. So I was able to do that, and that filled my days. You read 2 or 3 books a day, 4 books a day, and then do a little bit
Really? I
of
hadn't
work.
thought about it that way. That is,
It probably
you're like
kept me
this
out
all
of
day long
trouble.
then. You're just
Yeah,
pulling in food, right?
I'm pretty fortunate at, I will turn 82 this year,
Hmm.
and I still have good vision. I can see distance. I can read up close. Don't wear glasses. Have never had any, laser surgery or anything.
Cool.
So I'm very fortunate in that
That's
respect.
very
And I'm as
remarkable.
active
Yeah.
as I was to a large degree, 20 years ago.
Right.
I always thought, people ask me, why do you climb a ladder in the warehouse and go get something? And I said, I did it in my 40s and my 50s and my 60s. Why stop now? I think that philosophically, when people stop doing that is when they
Mm.
start getting old.
Yeah. Good.
And
Good piece of advice to pass on. Do
yeah,
now you've been an observer for a long time when natural foods were a fringe interest in the United States, even in nutty Southern California. I'm a native, so I can say that. So do you? But so observing over the years, Howard, have you seen trends or things develop in the industry that you wish they hadn't developed? In other words, any places you think that were mistakes where parts of the industry went, or anything like that?
probably the biggest change is the major companies that have stepped into the industry because they saw the direction things were going. So
Hmm.
when you have General Mills, General Foods, Nestle, Nestle owns most of the water companies around the world.
Huh.
They have an incredible investment in water, Avion and Pellegrino and a bunch of those companies. And that's the main thing you see at trade shows. When we went to trade shows, for example, Expo West, which has been going on since the early 80s, that particular show used to be you'd go in and you knew most of the people or a lot of the people, and you could, chat back and forth and give each other tips and get some mentorship and give some mentorship. And what has happened is now it's all suits. Now they're all corporate bunnies that are in there, um, you know, just with nothing but the number crunching in mind and
Mm.
not the thought that so many of us had, let's improve the world. One of the things that I always had a philosophy about was I'd like to see people become more spiritual. And I think that eating right helps. It
Ah,
puts you in a better frame of mind. You're just a better person for it. And I think that's where Sandy Gooch made some vast improvements with her operations. She did a very, very good job with her partners and
mhm.
ended up, actually getting what would be one of the things. Well, there was a term. She had very high standards on the products she would sell in her stores. And if a product became what was called, in quotes, Goochable, then it was really quite a thing. As a matter of fact, I think Sandy is one of the people that should be being interviewed like I am.
I
She
agree.
had some
Yes,
good things, going on. Uh,
absolutely.
and anyway, she and her husband, Harry Letterman, have been good friends over the years. Um, it's been quite a while since we were competitors, but I was never competitive because I always sold things that she wouldn't.
I
I
get it.
figured people could make a choice. I,
Right.
I never restricted what came into the store other than, really bad stuff. We never sold Twinkies. So we, but
Well, your
anyway,
store is located as a grocery store. Then in the neighbor, I mean, you serve the neighborhood in its entirety. It sounds like you gave choices because the neighborhood needed some more than one choice.
right. Yeah. Let them read the labels and see if they want to,
Yeah.
eat a particular item, if they did or didn't. So that was pretty good. I was married briefly in the early 60s, had two children. Unfortunately, their mother came from a family that was really had some squirrely DNA because they ended up, both of my kids have died.
Oh.
My son Roger died from a heart attack at about, I think, 46 or 47 years
Mm.
old. Dana was 56 when she had that cancer situation and passed away.
Uh,
And, following a spiritual path that I do, I spoke at the memorials and I did talk about, um, it. They come into our lives, they pass through, and if they leave before us, then they're probably bouncing around in a new baby body someplace
I see.
because reincarnation is the only thing that makes sense to me
Hmm.
for why we come on this path, why we come
Hmm.
on this earth. And when you follow a spiritual teacher, um, hopefully you're going to get out of this life at some point, or build a better one for your next time because it takes a long time to to grow out of being a a mere human being, because we all have so much more potential. Um, anyway, that gets into some pretty heavy philosophy really quick, so I should stop right there.
Well, we really want to thank you so much, Howard, for sharing your history, your views, your values. And we know that I certainly inspired probably every entrepreneur in Southern and all of California and around the country with your innovative and um, kind of embracing in the integrity of bringing good food to as many people as possible. And we want to thank you for all that you've done.
Well, it was my pleasure being here, speaking with you, and being able to share with, I think, more than 3 or 4 people who will be watching this.
Absolutely. We will do our best.
All right.
So thank you very much. And thank you all of our followers. Remember to follow the links to, if you missed the show, you will get a reminder replay link, and you can see the other interviews on our Health Pioneer YouTube channel. The link is on our webpage. So thank you so much. And thank you again, Howard, and have a nice day.
Okay.